الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. It pleases us greatly to join with our brothers in Canada for this reminder, first for myself and for my beloved brothers, about a very important matter in our religion, rather the foundation of our religion, which is Tawheedullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this matter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it the basis for everything. The messengers were sent for this cause. The books were revealed for this reason. All the legislations are for this matter. And we will read and briefly make comments upon the work of our noble Shaykh, Shaykh Muhammad Saeed Raslan, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, which is based upon the meaning first of La ilaha illallah and then the conditions of La ilaha illallah. Because this is a matter which must be understood in some sort of detail, so that a person does not think that it's just a statement on the tongue without anything else involved. Rather, there are certain conditions for this Shahadah, La ilaha illallah, to be acceptable, to be something which helps him Yawm al-Qiyamah, because that is the goal. So, to begin, after the Shaykh, Hafidhullah, mentioned Khutbatul Haja, and we're going to try to be concise for the sake of time. So I'll read the text in Arabic, and I'll make some commentary, mostly in English, for the sake of time. He begins by saying, أما بعد فقد قال شيخ الإسلام رحمه الله وقد علم وقد علم بالاضطرار من دين الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم واتفقت عليه الأمة أن أصل الإسلام وأول ما يؤمر به الخلق شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله. So he quoted first Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah when he said that it is known by necessity from the religion of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is what is agreed upon amongst the ummah, that the origin of Islam, the foundation of Islam, and the first thing which the creation were ordered with is to testify that there's nothing worthy of worship except for Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave servant and messenger. Ash-shahadatu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So this is the first thing, and the origin of Islam. فبذلك يصير الكافر مسلما والعدو وليا والمباح دمه وماله معصوم الدم والمال. He said, as a result of this shahada, a disbeliever comes into Islam, and the enemy becomes the friend. And the one who in origin was a person, Muslim, could fight in jihad, in a Muslim jihad, with a Muslim state, he could fight, and he could take his money and so on, as he was a kafir. Now, because he testified to La ilaha illallah, his blood and his honor and his wealth become pure and become sanctified. We cannot touch it. He has protection as a Muslim. ثم إن كان ذلك من قلبه فقد دخل في الإيمان وإن قاله بلسانه دون قلبه فهو في ظاهر الإسلام دون باطل الإيمان. And then he said, furthermore, if a person says it in his heart, meaning believing in it, then he has entered into faith, which is Iman. But if he only said it on his tongue without believing in his heart, or then he is apparently upon Islam, but he is not internally upon Iman. So this would be clearly the example of the hypocrite. We seek Allah's protection that he would say that he is a believer on his tongue, but in his heart he does not have that, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يَقُولُونَ بِأَلْسِنَتِهِمْ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. They say on their tongues that which is not in their heart. So this one, apparently, he shows he's Muslim, but since he did not have it in his heart, then we treat him as a Muslim. But Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's based upon what is his reality, which Allah knows what's in his heart or not. وأهل السنة والجماعة على أن أول ما يجب على العبد شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإفراد الله تعالى بالعبادة. So the Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the saved group, they are upon the matter that the first thing that the servant is obligated with is to testify La ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Wa hujjatuhum ala dhalika umur. And their proofs for this prioritization, that the first thing that comes in a person's life as a Muslim is Shahadah, La ilaha illallah, is many proofs. First and foremost, he mentioned, وَمِنْ أَهَمِّهَا قَوْلُ الرَّسُولِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم لمعاذ بن جبل لما أرسله إلى اليمن إنك تأتي قوما من أهل الكتاب فليكن أول ما تدعوهم إليه شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله. So when the Prophet ﷺ sent Mu'adh bin Jabal, the great Sahabi, to Yemen to teach them Islam, to call to Islam, he said, let the first thing, he said, he said, indeed, you are going to a people of the book, Jews and Christians. So let the first thing that you call them to is to testify La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The first thing. So that's an obvious proof that this comes from number one in priority. فإفراد الله تعالى بالتوحيد والبراءة من الشرك أول الواجبات وأوجب التكليفات وأفرض الفرائض. Then he mentioned, the Shaykh, that to single out Allah in worship. That's Tawheed, as we'll come to explain. Tawheed is the embodiment of Shahadah La ilaha illallah. It means to single Allah out in worship. And that we'll explain in detail. And it furthermore means to be free and say, I have nothing to do with shirk. This matter is the first obligation, that a person singles Allah out in worship and says, I'm free from shirk. This is the first of his obligations. Before anything else. Before prayer, before fasting, before anything. Because it's the first of Arkanul Islam. The pillars of Islam, we know, are 5. Shahadatain, and then comes as-salah. Tuqim as-salah wa tu'ti zakah, and so on. This come after. And this prioritization is mentioned first and foremost in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where he said, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. He said, what means, and your Lord has ordained, obligated, that you worship none but Allah. You worship none but Him. This is what? Tawheed. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And then secondly, number 2, to be good to your parents. So number 1, before everything else, is Allah, to worship Him alone. Tawheed, La ilaha illallah. After that, number 2, showing the greatness of importance, is the right of the parents. ثم قال وقال العلامة ابن عبد العز في شرح الطحاوية اعلم أن التوحيد أول دعوة الرسل وأول منازل الطريق وأول مقام يقوم به السالك إلى الله. Then he said, Imam al-Tahawi, explanation of his work written by Ibn Abdul Aziz, he said, and know that at Tawheed is the first of the call of the messenger. The messengers, all of them, they began with this call to signify again its importance and its priority, number one. So, this is the first of the path for a servant when he is on his path to Allah. This is the first step he must take. ولهذا كان الصحيح أن أول واجب يجب على المكلف شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله لا النظر ولا القصد إلى النظر ولا الشك كما هي أقوال لأرباب الكلام المذموم. So to summarize here, he's saying that yes, this is the first obligation, not what some philosophers bring of a certain philosophical concepts. You have to have inspection and looking into things. No, the first thing is testify la ilaha illallah, tawheed upon the conditions. This is the first thing a person must begin with. وقال رحمه الله في موضع آخر في شرح الطحاوية أئمة السلف كلهم متفقون على أن أول ما يؤمر به العبد الشهادتان. He said that the Imam of the Salaf, also the Imam Ibn Abdul Aziz, he said the leaders, the Imams of the Salaf, the scholars, all of them are agreed that the first thing that the servant is ordered with is to testify a shahadatain, the two shahada. وكلمة لا إله إلا الله هي كلمة التوحيد وكلمة الإخلاص وهي أول ركن من أركان الإسلام وأعلى شعبة من شعب الإيمان وهي أول وأعظم واجب على المكلف وآخر واجب عليه فلا أعظم على المكلف منها علما وعملا. In summary, he said that the statement La ilaha illallah is the statement of Tawheed. It is the statement of Ikhlas, another word for it, and it is the first pillar of Islam, and it is the highest of the branches of faith, as in the hadith, that faith is 70 some odd branches or 60 some odd branches. Allāh, la ilaha illallah. The highest of them is La ilaha illallah. So this is the first obligation and the last obligation, and there is nothing more important for the servant in his terms of his knowledge and his actions. And when he said that Tawheed is the first and the last, this is because, as we'll explain, that Tawheed is not just a matter of belief. It is, in origin, yes, in origin, it is belief. But in completion, it is much more. So all of Islam, rather, is Tawheed. Islam comes to teach us how to believe in Allah, and all the actions of Islam are for the completion of this Tawheed. And staying away from prohibitions is from the completion of this Tawheed. The more a person does of the obligations, the more complete his Tawheed is. So the Tawheed is similar to Iman in a sense that it is قول واعتقاد وعمل. Yes, you have to have belief and statement, testify, this is on the tongue, Shahadatu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and actions. So that's why some scholars, they explain that at Tawheed, there's what's called mutlaq at-Tawheed. What Tawheed al-Mutlaq. And perhaps this will come, we'll mention it. Perhaps we'll wait for this because it's going to come later. But the point is that, yes, we are going to deal with not just belief, but also statements and actions. ثم قال معنى شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله. So before we can discuss a topic, we have to know what it means. We have to make a definition. What do we mean when we say La ilaha illallah? معنى شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله معنى شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله نفي استحقاق العبادة عن كل ما سوى الله وإثباته لله وحده لا شريك له في عبادته كما أنه لا شريك له في ملكه. He says here that the meaning of La ilaha illallah is to negate that anything has a right to be worshipped besides Allah, and to affirm the right of worship to Allah alone, without partners. Just as in His kingdom, in His lordship, Allah is the only creator. He is the only one who has the kingdom, and no one else deserves the kingdom, and He has no partners in the kingdom. Similarly, no one deserves worship besides Allah. He is the only one who deserves that worship from us. فلا إله إلا الله لها ركنان النفي والإثبات. So La ilaha illallah, this is important so we understand the meaning. It has two pillars to its meaning: negation and affirmation. فلا إله تنفي الإبادة عن كل ما سوى الله تعالى وإلا الله تثبت جميع الإبادة لله وحده. So the statement first, La ilaha, this is negation. This means there's no deity. Okay? There's no deity worthy of worship, you could say. This is complete negation. Okay? This is negation of anyone deserving worship besides Allah. Illā, this is affirmation of worship to Allah alone. والنفي والإثبات هو التوحيد الذي جاءت به الرسل وأنزلت به الكتب وهو إثبات الإلهية لله وحده بأنه يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولا يعبد إلا إياه ولا يتوكل إلا عليه ولا يوالي إلا له ولا يعادي إلا فيه ولا يعمل إلا لأجله. So this negation and affirmation, this is what we mean by Tawheed in definition. And this is the Tawheed that all the messengers they came with, and all the books they were sent with this message. And this is to affirm the right of worship to Allah alone. And from the worship, the Shaykh mentioned examples that to put his trust, we have to single out Allah in trusting. So a tawakkul is from the worship that we make tawheed with, meaning we single out Allah alone. We only put our trust in Him. We befriend only for Allah. We make enemies only for Allah. And we act only for His sake. So this is the meaning. And so to make this matter clear and give another example outside of the text, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يقول ولقد بعثنا في كل أمة رسولا أن اعبدوا الله واجتنبوا الطاغوت. The ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and indeed we have sent in every nation a messenger calling and saying, worship Allah alone and stay away from the false gods. The proof in this ayah is the statement of Allah, worship Allah alone, worship Allah and stay away from the false gods. Worship Allah, which is that this is ithbat, this is affirmation of worship for Allah. Wajtanibu taghut, this is negation. Stay away from the false gods. Do not worship them, do not believe in them. So if you want to convert this to La ilaha illallah, and i'budullah, worship Allah, this is like the half of the statement, illallah. Wajtanibu taghut, stay away from the false gods. This is the equivalent of La ilaha. So you see how it's all compatible, whether in this ayah or in the La ilaha illallah, and many other ayat in the Quran carry the same pillars: negation and affirmation. So you can make this even clearer, as Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he said, for example, if a person says Zaydun qa'imun, Zayd is standing, this is affirmation. This means that Zayd, yes, we know that he is standing. But does it negate that anyone else is standing in the room? No, it does not. What if you said the opposite? You said Lam yaqum ahadun, no one is standing. That means no one. There's no one standing at all. Neither Zayd nor anyone else. But how do you make Tawheed for Zayd to be standing? How can you make Tawheed for him to be standing? Meaning ifrad, single him out in the standing, you say, Lam yaqum illa Zaydun. No one stood up except Zayd. La ilaha illallah. You see, no one stood up. Negation, except Zayd. Affirmation for Zayd that he is standing. But no one else. La ilaha illallah. There is nothing that deserves to be worshipped. Negation, except Allah. Affirmation. So this means only Allah deserves to be worshipped. Only Allah. Okay? ثم قال الشيخ رسلان حفظه الله وهذه الكلمة نفي وإثبات لا يتم التوحيد إلا بهما بنفي الإلهية عن كل ما سوى الله تعالى من المرسلين حتى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ومن الملائكة حتى جبريل عليه السلام فضلا عن غيرهما من الأنبياء والصالحين وإثبات الألوهية لله فلا يكفي النفي ولا يكفي الإثبات بل لا بد من الاثنين مقترنين. So just to emphasize, the Shaykh said the statement of La ilaha illallah is negation and affirmation. So a person has to negate the right of worship from everything, even if it be the greatest of messengers, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the greatest of angels, Jibreel alayhi salam, or anyone less than them. None of them have a right to be worshipped. This is right to Allah alone. And at the same time, you have to affirm the right for Allah, negate from other than Allah, affirm for Allah. This is Tawheed. وَمَعْنَى لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So in more detail, what is the meaning? لَا مَعْبُودَ بِحَقٍّ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So here, La ilaha illallah actually has an omitted word in it, which is understood, which is bihaqqin. So you have to believe that means La ilaha ay la ma'bud, because the ilah is the worshipped deity, which means in Arabic ma'bud, the one that is worshipped. Bihaqqin may be right, that has a right to be worshipped, except Allah. So what is the meaning La ilaha illallah? La ma'buda bihaqqin illallah. This we have to all memorize. Because this basically is the definition. Because the reason why we have to say this, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it clearly. He said what means وَذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْحَقَّ وَإِنَّمَا يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ الْبَاطِلِ. In the ayah which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what means, that is because Allah is the truth. الْحَقِّ ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْحَقِّ. That's where we get the word La ma'buda bihaq. That is because Allah is the truth, meaning to be worshipped, and those which they call upon besides Him are batil, meaning they are false gods. They are worshipped, right? But they are worshipped in falsehood. They do not deserve to be worshipped. So La ma'buda bihaqqin illallah. ولهذا عرف مشركي or mushrikū Quraysh ma'na la ilaha illallah. So therefore the mushrikun of Quraysh, they knew what la ilaha illallah means. It means that there's nothing that deserves to be worshipped except Allah. فقالوا متعجبين كما ذكر الله رب العالمين أجعل الآلهة إلها واحدا إن هذا لشيء عجاب. So because they knew what la ilaha illallah means, that it comes to abolish all their false gods to be worshipped. It means none of their false gods, none of their idols deserve worship because they're all batil. Because they knew that, they refused to say it because it came to destroy their religion. So they refused. They were amazed. They were shocked with that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what means. They would say, did he come, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and has he made all the gods, all of our gods into one God, Allah? Indeed, this is an amazing and a strange thing. So they were not submitting. So they did not believe. They did not believe. وإلا فهم يعلمون أن الله هو الخالق هو الخلاق العظيم وهو الرزاق الكريم كما قال ربنا تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم ولئن سألتهم من خلق السماوات والأرض ليقولون الله فكانوا يعلمون معنى لا إله إلا الله ولذلك لم يقولوها وحاربوا على رفضها ولم يتبعوها وكذبوا المبعوث بها صلى الله عليه وسلم. So here, see, when some people they misunderstand because they fail to understand the meaning of the word La ilaha illallah. So they'll say it doesn't mean there's nothing worthy of worship besides Allah. No, it means there's no creator except Allah. La khaliqa illallah. And this is a false meaning, because if this was the meaning of La ilaha illallah, that there's no creator except Allah, then the Quraysh and the Mushrikun, they would have submitted and they would have said it, because they believe that there's no creator except Allah. They believe that fact. But what they did not believe or submit to is that only Allah should be worshipped. As far as creation, they knew that Allah is the creator alone. La khaliqa illallah, they believe that. So that is not the meaning of La ilaha illallah. How do we know that? Because Allah said in the verse, and if you ask them, the next page, if you ask them who created the heavens and the earth, they would say Allah, meaning that they admitted, meaning they believe that Allah is the creator. So this cannot be the meaning of La ilaha illallah. So if that was the meaning of La ilaha illallah, then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not have fought them, and they would not have fought him, because they all agreed. The Mushrikun agreed that Allah is the only creator, with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Allah is the only creator. So where's the conflict? Where's the issue? The issue is in the worship. So La ilaha illallah deals with worship. Nothing deserves to be worshipped except Allah. Then the Shaykh said, وَمَنْ قَالَ هَذِهِ الْكَلِمَةِ عَارِفًا لِمَعْنَاهَا عَاقِلًا أو عاملا لمقتضاها في نفي الشرك وإثبات الوحدانية مع الاعتقاد الجازم لما تضمنته والعمل به فهو المسلم حقا. So then he said, the one who says this statement, La ilaha illallah, knowing the meaning and acting according to it, what it necessitates, from leaving off shirk and negating shirk and establishing the worship to Allah alone with the firm belief, and acts according to it, then he is the true Muslim. This is the true Muslim. وَمَنْ عَمِلَ بِلَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ مِنْ غَيْرِ اعْتِقَادٍ فَهُوَ الْمُنَافِقُ حَقًّا. The opposite is what? The one who does the actions of Islam, like we said, openly, apparently, without belief in his heart, then he is what? The hypocrite in belief. The hypocrite in belief. يَقُولُونَ بِأَلْسِنَتِهِمْ وَمَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. They say La ilaha illallah, but it's not in their heart. They act, they pray. وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Allah said about the munafiqeen that when they stand to pray, they stand lazily, to show to the people that they're praying. Meaning they're not praying for Allah. They're praying to show the people. So they don't have the faith in the heart. So this is the pure munafiq. وَمَنْ عَمِلَ بِخِلَافِهَا مِنَ الشِّرْكِ فَهُوَ الْمُشْرِكُ الْكَافِرُ وَإِنْ قَالَهَا بِلِسَانِهِ نُطْقًا. And the one who acts in opposition to Tawheed, meaning he does actions of shirk, he worships the graves, he worships idols, and so on. And these will come in the end of the book, those things which nullify one's Tawheed or one's faith, they will come and be explained. The one who does some of these actions or beliefs of disbelief, then he is a disbeliever. He is a kafir, mushrik, even if he says La ilaha illallah. It doesn't help him. Because as we said, a person has to have three things. He has to have belief in the heart, he has to say it on the tongue, and he has to act on his limbs. Similar to faith, Tawheed is similar in that a person has to believe in the essence of the meaning and know what it means and affirm it, and he must say it, Shahadah, on the tongue, and he must act according to it. He cannot do actions that come now and negate what he just said. This is unacceptable. He says La ilaha illallah, and then he goes and worships a grave. He goes and worships an idol, and so on. It's a contradiction. He just said something on his tongue and totally contradicted himself in his actions. So this would not be acceptable. This is a person who's upon shirk. So then he said, وَلَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ كَلِمَةٌ عَظِيمَةٌ وَهِيَ الْأُرْوَةُ الْوُثْقَى وَكَلِمَةُ التَّقْوَى وهي كلمة الإخلاص وهي التي قامت بها السماوات والأرض وشرع لتكميلها السنة والفرض ولأجلها جردت سيوف الجهاد فمن قالها وعمل بها صدقا وإخلاصا وقبولا ومحبة أدخله الله الجنة على ما كان من العمل. So here the author says, so La ilaha illallah is the great statement. It is al-urwat al-wuthqa. It is kalimatul taqwa. It is kalimatul ikhlas. And the reason this statement is so great, that this is the reason why Allah created the heavens and the earth. Allah created us, for example, not except to worship Him. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ أي يوحدون ويعبدون, that I did not create mankind and jinn except to worship me, and worship the basis of it is the tawheed. So we were created only for this purpose. The heavens and the earth were subjugated only for this purpose, to establish the worship of Allah. And all the legislations, the obligations, the prohibitions, all of them have been legislated for the realization of this statement. As we'll see, the realization of this statement and the completion of this statement is embodied in coming with the obligations and coming with all the legislations and staying away from the prohibitions. So this all connected. We don't think it's just something we just believe in and our actions have nothing to do with it. No, the actions are connected to our tawheed. وَلِأَجْلِهَا, yes, because of this, there was jihad, was legislated. And so the one who says this statement and acts according to it, according to the conditions, then Allah will enter him into Jannah according to what he has of actions. ثم قال ومن شهد قال أورد حديثا عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من شهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله وأن عيسى عبد الله ورسوله وكلمته ألقاها إلى مريم وروح منه والجنة حقا والنار حقا أدخله الله الجنة على ما كان من العمل. Excuse me 1 second. Get one thing. Excuse me. So here, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen explained this hadith and the explanation of Kitab al-Tawheed. And the hadith is, whoever testifies to La ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah, alone without partners, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is his slave servant and messenger, and that Isa alayhi salam is a slave servant and messenger of Allah, and the word which he cast upon Maryam, meaning he was the result of the word kun, be, and it is, and he was a spirit from him created by Allah, and that the Jannah is true and the hellfire is true. He testifies to all these things. He testifies to La ilaha illallah, that Muhammad Rasulullah, and that Isa is Rasulullah, and so on, and Jannah, he testifies Jannah is truth and hellfire is truth. Then what? The result? أَدْخَلَهُ اللَّهُ الْجَنَّةِ عَلَى مَا كَانَ مِنَ الْعَمَلِ. Then Allah will enter him into paradise according to whatever he has of the actions. So here I want to emphasize this point, because some people they may misunderstand when any text that comes with a promise of enter into Jannah, then we have to know that these promises come with conditions. Okay, these promises are not to be understood absolutely. What do I mean by that? Meaning that entering into Jannah is of two types. Entering into Jannah is either what's called ad-dukhul al-mutlaq or ad-dukhul al-kamil, which is the complete entering, which is what? The entering that a person immediately after he is raised up and Qiyamah is established, he immediately goes to Jannah. because he has not come with any nullifiers of his tawheed, nor has he come with any sins by which he's punished, or that Allah has forgiven him. But he has come basically with such a good Islam in statement and belief in action that he will not be punished. Okay, and this returns to the will of Allah. But the more the person has the good deeds, the more he is from this group that is entered into Jannah immediately without any previous punishment. This is what's called ad-dukhul al-mutlaq or ad-dukhul al-kamil. So we go back to because the hadith said, adkhalahu Allahu al-Jannah. The one who believes these things, Allah will enter him into Jannah according to what he has of action. So the first entering is the entering which is without any previous punishment. And the second entering is what's called dukhul naqis or mutlaq ad-dukhul, mutlaq ad-dukhul, meaning that he has the promise that eventually he will enter Jannah. He may not enter immediately initially, but eventually he will enter Jannah. Why? Because he may have a period of purification in the punishment in the hellfire to purify for any sins he deserves to be punished, and that returns to Allah's mercy or his wisdom and his justice. But if he is punished, he will eventually go to Jannah. So both entrances are encompassed in this hadith. Adkhalahu Allahu al-Jannah. Allah will enter him into Jannah. This is promised, but it may not be immediately. It may be eventually. Immediately, if he comes with what? The completion of Tawheed. The completion of Tawheed, then he has a promise that Allah will enter him into Jannah immediately. As we know, some people will be entered into Jannah bila adab wala hisab. As in the hadith, 70,000 will enter Jannah without any punishment or account because of their strength of Tawheed and strength of action. So this is the immediate entrance. Then the others may be punished, but they will eventually go to Jannah. But in the end, they all go to Jannah. So we have to understand entrance into Jannah is of two categories. And this returns to the will of Allah, as Allah said, "Inna Allah la yaghfiru ay yushraka bihi. Inna Allah la yaghfiru ay yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha." It returns to the will of Allah. Allah does not forgive that someone dies upon shirk. No, if he dies upon shirk, major shirk, he will not enter. Period. Jannah. But if he died upon less than shirk of sins, then he's under the will of Allah. If he wants to forgive him and enter him, otherwise he may punish him first, and eventually though he will enter Jannah. So what do we mean when we say a person dies on complete Tawheed? Complete Tawheed as comes is at-Tawheed al-Mutlaq or at-Tawheed al-Kamil. Means that he has the sound belief. He has not done any shirk. He did not die upon, any shirk to nullify his Tawheed. Furthermore, he came with the wajibat. He did the obligations. He stayed away from the prohibitions. And he died upon a very complete level of Tawheed. Then he is the one who enters Jannah, what? Ad-dukhul al-mutlaq. Immediately. He is under this promise. Okay? After the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is what it means that he will enter immediately. But the one who has a Tawheed, which is less than that, which we call, first one we called what? At-Tawheed al-Mutlaq. Complete Tawheed. The second one is Mutlaq at-Tawheed or Mutlaq al-Iman. The scholars mentioned this term Mutlaq al-Iman or Mutlaq at-Tawheed means the essence, the least of Tawheed, the essence of Tawheed, the foundation of Tawheed, but he does not come with completion of Tawheed, then he does not have the completion of the promise. You come with the completion of the Tawheed, you have the completion of the promise to enter immediately. If one comes with deficiency in just the essence, just the basic, you can say a mustard seed or more or less of Tawheed, then he has the incomplete promise and the incomplete entrance into Jannah. Meaning he may be punished first, if Allah wills. So this is we have to understand, when you see any text that says, he died and his last statement was La ilaha illallah, or that any text that says Man qala la ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah, or other texts that he does this or that and the result he enters Jannah. It depends how complete is his tawheed and its effect on his actions, or vice versa, to attain that promise. Okay, so now inshallah we'll come to the shurut, because the shurut will make this clear. Okay, because some of the shurut, or the conditions of La ilaha illallah, they pertain to belief. Okay, some of them are clearly about matters of belief, like knowledge. Knowledge is where? Knowledge is a belief, is in the heart. And some of them deal with statements on the tongue, and some of them deal with actions on the limbs. So a person to have the complete tawheed, to get the complete promise of all the texts that come with promises on its basis, then he has to come with all three aspects, as in the conditions: to believe, to stay on the tongue, and to act on the limbs. And these are mentioned in a narration from Wahb ibn Munabbih, or Munabbih, from one of the Salaf. He was asked, Su'ila Wahb ibn Munabbih, Alaysa miftahul jannah la ilaha illallah? He was asked by someone, isn't La ilaha illallah the key to Jannah? Meaning, a person dies La ilaha illallah, he enters Jannah, right? He has the key. So he has the key to Jannah, right? Qala bala walakin ma min miftahin illa lahu asnan. فإن أتيت بمفتاح له أسنان فتح لك وإلا لم يفتح لك. He said that yes, of course, La ilaha illallah is the key to Jannah, but every key has teeth. It has teeth to the key. If you come with the right key, with the right teeth, then the door will open for you. But if you come with a key that does not have the right teeth, or does not have the teeth, no matter how much you put that key in the door, it will not click. So these teeth for the key, these are the shurut for La ilaha illallah. These are the conditions for La ilaha illallah. And no doubt, you can say, before we enter upon the shurut, I want to mention something, which no doubt that the stronger that a person's heart and knowledge of meaning of La ilaha illallah, and the more his knowledge is, no doubt that his actions are going to be more pure. They are connected. We don't want to separate. What is on the inside will show on the outside, and what is on the outside will be generally connected to what's on the inside. So therefore, example of that, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ala inna fil jasadi mudghah, in saluhat saluha al jasadu kulluh, wa in fasadat fasada al jasadu kulluh, ala wa hiya al qalb." Hadith authentic, as mentioned in the 40 Hadith Nawawi, Hadith Nu'man ibn Bashir radiyallahu an, that the Prophet ﷺ said in the part of the Hadith, indeed, in the body is a morsel of flesh, is a piece of flesh. If it is correct and healthy, then the whole body will be healthy. And if it is corrupt, then the whole body will be corrupt. Indeed, it is the heart. So we see that the origin and the most important matter when we talk about Tawheed or talk about Iman is what is in the heart of the individual. The stronger that heart is, as we said in the Hadith, indeed in the body is a morsel of flesh. If it is strong and good and healthy, then the whole body will have the resulting health, which is the heart. If the faith is strong in the heart, it will naturally deposit upon the limbs and show on the tongue, and he will come with the actions which are the fruits of his belief. And the opposite is true. The person who who is weak or deficient in his belief in the heart, and his tawheed is shaky, but he will have the resulting effects will be likewise of deficiency on his statement and his tongue. We have to seek Allah's refuge from that. But the point is that the matter is of different levels. Okay, that which is in the heart is of different levels for different people. Not everyone is the same level of knowledge. Okay, from the conditions of the tawheed or knowledge, yaqeen, certainty. Not everybody's at the same level. Not everyone has the same level of acceptance, of submission with action. So the heart is of different levels. Then therefore you find Muslims of different levels in their actions and in their submission to the legislation. But we emphasize that as long as mutlaqul at-tawheed is there, then eventually that Muslim will go to Jannah. When he has the essence, the basic, the least level of tawheed, the mustard seed, then eventually he'll go to Jannah. As long as what? He does not come with any nullifiers of this tawheed. And this is the one who is on a shaky stance. Allah may forgive him, He may punish him, but he is threatened with the punishment as long as he has not come with the actions as he is obligated. Another proof, and before we mention that, we'll mention this proof also for that matter, is in Surah Ibrahim, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what means. ألم تر كيف ضرب الله مثلا كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء تؤتي أكلها كل حين بإذن ربها. So this verse, in it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what means that, do you not see how Allah has made the example of the good word? Which is the good word? La ilaha illallah. It is like the good tree. أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء. It has, the foundation is firm and the branches reach to the skies. قال الإمام السعدي رحمه الله in the tafsir, Imam السعدي said, فكذلك شجرة الإيمان أصلها ثابت في قلب المؤمن علما واعتقادا وفرعها من الكلمة الطيب والعمل الصالح والأخلاق المرضية والآداب الحسنة في السماء دائما يصعد إلى الله منه من الأعمال والأقوال التي تخرجها شجرة الإيمان ما ينتفع به المؤمن وينفع غيره. So here he's explaining here that just as the tree which is firm, the La ilaha illallah has a firmness. Where is the firmness? The origin, which is in the heart, which is his knowledge and his belief. And then the branches shoot from that towards the heavens, just like the tree, which are his good words, good statements, and good actions, and his good manners, and his good behaviors. They raise to the sky from the statements and actions, just as the tree of faith, and by which the believer is benefited and he benefits others. So this, as an introduction, we'll see then the importance of the belief and what follows from it, the importance of the statements of the actions. فقال رحمه الله شروط لا إله إلا الله وقد ذكر العلماء رحمهم الله للا إله إلا الله شروطا 7 لا تصح إلا إذا اجتمعت واستكملها العبد وقد جمعها بعضهم في قوله علم يقين وإخلاص وصدقك مع محبة وانقياد والقبول لها. So the conditions of La ilaha illallah, which are, like we said, the teeth of the key, they are 7. And the statement La ilaha illallah will not be acceptable except if a person comes with all these conditions. You cannot have one or two. You have to have all of them. And they're combined in the poem, which means knowledge and certainty and sincerity and truthfulness, along with loving and submission and acceptance. So these are 7. And there's another poem which I'm not going to read all of it for the sake of time, but just the end of it, the last part. قال الحافظ وبشروط 7 قد قيدت وفي نصوص الوحي حقا وردت فإنه لم ينتفع قائلها بالنطق إلا حين يستكملها العلم واليقين والقبول والانقياد فدر ما أقول والصدق والإخلاص والمحبة وفقك الله لما أحبه. So here the Al-Hafidh, he's saying the 7 conditions, just again, which are those same 7. Basically, he's saying that they are established in the text truthfully, these conditions, these 7, and the servant will not be benefited by just saying La ilaha illallah, except he has come with these conditions: the knowledge, yaqeen, certainty, acceptance, submission, truthfulness, sincerity, and love. Then he began, and we'll cover, inshallah, the first 4, and then we'll continue with the brother Abu Sam after Isha. The first of them, al-ilm, the knowledge. And this, as we said, is a matter of the heart. Al-ilm bi la ilaha illallah bima'naha nafyan wa ithbata. Again, which we mean that a person believes the meaning, which is according to the 2 pillars, to negate right of worship besides Allah, and to affirm the right to Allah alone. Nafyan wa ithbat. والعلم بها تستلزمه والعلم بما تستلزمه من العمل. And also he must know that which this matter necessitates of action. فإذا علم العبد أن الله هو المعبود وحده لا شريك له وأن عبادة غيره باطلة وعمل بمقتضى ذلك العلم فهو العالم بمعنى لا إله إلا الله. So first he has the knowledge of this statement, and then he comes with the actions which are necessitated. Okay, but the knowledge of is the meaning, that he affirms the right of Allah alone to be worshipped and negation from anyone else. And this degradation is also found when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ. فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ. And this the Shaykh will also mention. But when I say here, why? Because we see in this ayah the ordering. Fa'alam, know first that la ilaha illallah, and then number 2, what? Wastaghfir li dhanbik, which is an action of the tongue, statement on the tongue. So the knowledge first, okay, very important to be sound knowledge. Therefore, Imam al-Bukhari, he made a chapter in his book, Babu al-ilmu qabala al-qawli wal-amal. Al-ilmu qabala al-qawli wal-amal, because when a person knows well, his actions will be well, usually. If he knows and he understands. And so a person, in his beginning, he has to understand what he's, the subject matter very well. So here we're dealing with La ilaha illallah, understand the meaning very well. ثم قال وضد العلم الجهل, because sometimes to understand a thing you have to see what is the opposite. وبضدها تتبين الأشياء. The scholars say by the opposite of a matters you understand what they are. If you want to know what is light, what is nur, sometimes you have to explain to people it is the opposite of darkness, so that the matter becomes clear. So here he said, what is the opposite of knowledge? Ignorance. So if you know that the ignorance is the opposite, it becomes clear to you what is knowledge. بحيث لا يعلم وجوب إفراد الله بالعبادة, بل يرى جواز عبادة غير الله مع الله. قال تعالى فاعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله. So what is jahl? Jahl is that a person does not know the obligation of worshiping Allah alone. Rather, he considers it permissible to worship besides Him. So he is negated and he is violated by that the statement of Allah. فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Know that there is nothing worthy of worship except Allah. فأول شروط لا إله إلا الله العلم بمعناها نفيا وإثباتا وما تستلزمه من العمل. So the first of the conditions is what? The knowledge, and that which it necessitates from the actions and which negates and opposes the ignorance. قال تعالى فاعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله وقال سبحانه لا يملك الذين يدعون من دونه الشفاعة إلا من شهد بالحق وهم يعلمون. Here the point of the ayah, except the one who testifies with truth whilst he knows. أي يعلمون بقلوبهم معنى ما نطقوا بألسنتهم. Meaning that a person's testimony is of no use with his tongue unless he first believes it and knows it in his heart. That's why Allah said إلا من شهد بالحق وهم يعلمون. He testifies with his tongue and he knows whilst he knows in his heart. Proof of what? Knowledge. So the testimony, La ilaha illallah, a person says it, for example, and he has no idea what it means. Would that help him? No. Allah is saying here, the one who testifies whilst not knowing in his heart the meaning of that or believing it, it has no benefit. There's no benefit on the tongue. You see? So you have to have, again, what? Belief in the heart, statement on the tongue, action on the limbs. وعن عثمان ibn Affan رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من مات وهو يعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة. Whoever dies and he knows La ilaha illallah, he enters paradise. So this is a proof for what? Knowledge. And when it says here دخل الجنة, what does it mean? Upon the details that we mentioned before. He will enter Jannah only if he comes with all the conditions, and his entrance into Jannah may be immediately or it may be eventually, depending on how much he comes with the completion of Tawheed, with the obligations of actions and statements and so on, and staying away from the prohibitions. Then he has the immediate entry. Otherwise, he has eventual entry. He eventually will, but he may not immediately, depending on as Allah wills. So this is the first condition. وأما الشرط الثاني فاليقين وهو أن ينطق بالشهادة عن يقين جازم يطمئن قلبه إليه. So the second of the conditions is yaqeen, which is certainty. That a person his heart is at ease. He has no shakiness. He has no doubt. He says La ilaha illallah, and his heart is what? His heart is at ease. So this is a yaqeen, is in the heart. Okay? So this is also a matter dealing with the condition, one of the conditions dealing with the heart. دون تسرب شيء من الشكوك, without any doubt coming to his heart. ويعتقد صحة ما يقوله من أحقية إلهية الله تعالى وبطلان إلهية ما عداه. And he believes in his heart the certainty or the right, the correctness of what he says. When he says La ilaha illallah, he believes certainty that only Allah deserves to be worshipped and no one else deserves to be worshipped. وإنه لا يجوز أن يصرف لغيره شيء من أنواع التأله والتعبد. And he believes in his heart that it is not allowed for him to dedicate any worship to other than Allah from any types of worships. فإن شك في شهادته أو توقف في بطلان عبادة غير الله كان يقول أجزم بألوهية الله ولكنني متردد ببطلان إلهية غيره بطلت شهادته ولم تنفعه. قال تعالى مثبتا or مثنيا على, we'll do that later. So, but as opposed to, if a person has a doubt, when he says La ilaha illallah, he's doubtful. He's not sure what he's saying. He may say, for example, I know for sure that only Allah, I'm sorry. He says, I know for sure that Allah is worshipped. Yes, I worship Allah. Allah should be worshipped, but I'm not sure about the other gods, whether their worship is correct or not. Then his Shahadah is nullified. It has no benefit for him. It's false. It will not benefit him because he has a doubt. He has to affirm certainty, the worship for Allah, and negate certainly the worship besides Allah without doubt. He cannot say the other religions also are correct, or that the other idol worship or Christianity also is correct, and so on. You cannot say that. You cannot believe that. You have to say only Allah has the right to be worshipped without any shirk. Okay, well, Allah قال تعالى مثنيا على المؤمنين والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون ومدح الله المؤمنين أيضا بقوله إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا. So these two ayahs Shaykh mentioned as a proof. As we said, all these shurut, conditions, have proofs from the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the proofs, the statement of Allah, and those who believe in that which was revealed to you and that which was revealed before you, and they have certainty in the next life. Certainty, yaqeen. And also Allah praised the believers also when he said, it is only the believers, those who believe in Allah and His Messenger, and then they have no doubt. You see, the doubt is the opposite of yaqeen, just as ignorance is the opposite of knowledge. To know that a person has knowledge, he should see that he has no ignorance upon this matter of Tawheed. If he wants to see, does he have yaqeen? He has to look and inspect his heart that he has no doubt. He has no doubt in the matter. فاليقين الجازم هو الذي يطمئن القلب إليه ولا يتسرب معه شيء من الشك. So the certain yaqeen is that the heart of the servant is at ease. He has no shakiness in his heart. He has no doubt in his heart. ويعتقد صحة ما يقوله نطقا باللسان من حقية إلهية الله وبطلان إلهية ما أداه. And that he believes in the truthfulness of what he says on his tongue, that only Allah has the right to be worshipped and no one else has the right to be worshipped. وأنه لا يجوز أن يصرف لغيره شيء من أنواع التوله والتعبد. And that he believes that he has no right to dedicate any worship to other than Allah, any worship. فقد روى مسلم في صحيحه بسنده عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأني رسول الله لا يلقى الله بهما عبد غير شاك فيهما إلا دخل الجنة. The Prophet ﷺ said, I testify to La ilaha illallah and that I am the messenger of Allah. No servant who should meet Allah with these two testimonies without any doubt in them. That's the point. Without any doubt, except that he would enter Jannah. He would enter Jannah as long as he comes with, as you said, the other conditions and has no nullifiers, and upon the degradation we mentioned before. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من لقيت وراء هذا الحائط يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله مستيقنا بها قلبه فبشره بالجنة. He said, whoever you meet behind this wall, he told the companion, and he testifies to La ilaha illallah with certainty from his heart, then give him the glad tidings of Jannah. Okay, so he comes with the certainty and also the other conditions, all the keys. Okay, then give him glad tidings of Jannah. It's understood. فهذا هو الشرط الثاني من شروط لا إله إلا الله. الأول العلم أنه لا معبود بحق إلا الله وأنه يجب إفراد الله تعالى بالعبادة الظاهرة والباطنة. So the first condition again was the knowledge, that only Allah has the right to be worshipped alone. And the second, الثاني أن يكون اليقين قائما في القلب على هذا الأمر, that he should have certainty in his heart about this matter. Not just knowledge. Now he doesn't just knows, he knows for sure, without doubt. And to save time, we'll summarize, because some of these evidences are of, I think, similar. For example, I'll just mention the ayat. وإنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what means it is only the believers, those who believe in Allah and His Messenger, and then they have no doubt. That's the point. No doubt. That's the proof. As far as the one who have doubt, then they are who? Al-Munafiqun. فَأَمَّا الْمُرْتَابِ فَهُوَ مِنَ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. That this is the problem with the hypocrites. They have doubt. So they are not upon Tawheed internally. Even if they pray, even if they fast. You see? مَا بُنِيَ عَلَى فَاسِدٍ فَهُوَ فَاسِدٍ. In the principle, if there is falsehood as an origin, then whatever you build upon falsehood, it is all false. You have to come with the origin. The belief has to be there. Munafiq, hypocrite, he doesn't have the belief in the heart. No matter how much he fasts or prays or give charity, it has no benefit, because he didn't come with the origin, which is Tawheed and belief. The origin. Okay? And so his actions after that are of no use. So لذلك الذين قال الله فيهم إنما يستأذنك الذين لا يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر وارتابت قلوبهم فهم في ريبهم يترددون. Here, the hypocrites, those who seek permission and excuse not to fight with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who are they? Allah said, it is only those who seek permission, those who do not believe in Allah in the last day, and their hearts are doubt. So they are upon a uncertain, they are doubtful, and they are not upon stability. Basically, this is, as we said, because the heart is not there. فَلَا إِيمَانَ لِمَنْ قَالَهَا شَاكًّا مُرْتَابًا. So there's no faith and there's no tawheed for the one who says La ilaha illallah out of doubt. وَلَوْ قَالَهَا بِعَدَدِ الْأنفاس وَلَوْ صَرَخَ بِهَا حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ جَمِيعُ النَّاسِ. Even if he says it the number of his breath, meaning he just repeats La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, but he has this shakiness in his heart and he is upon the way of the hypocrites, then it doesn't matter. Even if he yells at the top of the mountain, it won't help. وفي الحديث أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وإني رسول الله. نعم, the same hadith he mentioned. So next he said واشترط في دخول قائلها الجنة أن يكون مستيقنا بها قلبه غير شاك فيها وإذا انتفى الشرط انتفى المشروط فلا يدخل الجنة إلا من كان موقنا بها قلبه. So this condition is there, that is certainty, and we know the meaning of a condition is if the condition is absent, then the result is absent. That which is based upon the condition is absent, which is that he enters Jannah. وأما الشرط الثالث, the third condition, فالقبول يعني أن يقبل كل ما اقتضته هذه الكلمة بقلبه ولسانه فيصدق بالأخبار ويؤمن بكل ما جاء عن الله عن طريق النبي المختار صلى الله عليه وسلم ويقبل ذلك كله ولا يرد منه شيئا ولا يجني على النصوص بالتأويل الفاسد والتحريف الذي نهى الله عنه. So third condition is acceptance. And this is, some scholars say, is on the tongue, on the heart, and on the tongue. In the heart and on the tongue. Meaning that he has to believe in all the information which he gets from Allah or His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he has to believe in all of it. He cannot reject, because we said the opposite of acceptance, there's an opposite, which is rejection, or to be arrogant, istikbar. to be arrogant, and he said, I'm not going to accept it. I know it's true. A person may know something is true and be sure it's true, but out of arrogance, he rejects it. So he has not entered into Islam, and he has not come with the conditions of La ilaha illallah. Okay? Example, Abu Talib. Abu Talib, he knew the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam was truth, and he was sure of it, but he refused to say La ilaha illallah out of arrogance, out of rejection. He rejected to come into Islam, to believe and accept the rulings of Islam in his heart, from that the origin of it is to abolish shirk. He refused to believe in the abolishment of shirk because it went against his religion. Therefore, on his deathbed, they said on his head of his deathbed, أَتَرْغَبُ عَنْ مِلَّةِ عَبْدِ الْمُطَّلِبِ. When the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya Ammi, قُلْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. The Prophet ﷺ said to him, O my uncle, say La ilaha illallah. Abu Talib, at his head were two of the disbelievers, the leaders of the disbelievers. They said to him, would you die? Would you turn away from the religion of Abdul Muttalib? Would you turn away the religion of your father? So here because being the religion of shirk, so here he died upon the religion of shirk out of arrogance, rejection to come into Islam. So this is not acceptable, even if a person knows, even if he's certain in his heart, it's not sufficient. وضد القبول الرد فإن هناك من يعلم معنى الشهادة ويوقن بمدلولها فيأتي بالشرط الأول والشرط الثاني لكنه يردها كبرا وحسدا، وهذه حال علماء اليهود والنصارى كما قال الله عنهم الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم وإن فريقا منهم ليكتمون الحق وهم يعلمون. So another example, the person who out of arrogance or out of envy, even the Shaykh said another reason person may reject and not accept in his heart and on his tongue is out of envy, which was the example of the scholars of the Jews and the Christians. They knew, they were sure Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the one who was mentioned in their books, but out of arrogance and out of envy, they refused to submit, they refused to accept and say on their tongue, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, those who we gave them the book, the previous books, they know him, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as they know their sons. But a group of them, they would hide the truth whilst they know. They would hide those verses. They would hide it and not accept it out of arrogance and envy. ويدخل في الرد أيضا بنقض الشرط الثالث من شروط لا إله إلا الله من يعترض على بعض الأحكام الشرعية أو على بعض الحدود ويردها كالذين يعترضون على حد السرقة والذين يعترضون على حد الزنا والذين يعترضون على تعدد الزوجات وهذا كله داخل في الرد وعدم القبول لله إله إلا الله. The Shaykh here gave another example of rejection and not acceptance. Is that some people, they object to the legislation. They object. They don't accept. They may accept part of the religion, but they don't accept all the religion. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu udkhulu fis silmi kaffa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "O you who believe, enter into Islam, all of it." We cannot pick and choose. That which goes by our desires, we accept, and that which goes against our desires, we reject. This is not Islam, and this is not Tawheed. Allah said, Allah said, would you believe in part of the book and disbelieve in other part? No, we have to accept all of it in totality. So a person, for example, says, I can't accept that a thief should be cut, his hand should be cut off as a penalty. I can't accept that the adulterer should be stoned. This lack of acceptance means he has not entered into Islam. Even if he says on his tongue, even if he knows what La ilaha illallah means, even if he has yaqeen in the meaning of La ilaha illallah, but he doesn't accept that which necessitates that which is necessitated by La ilaha illallah, that a person accepts all the legislation, then he is not accepted, and he's not come into Islam, and he has not come into Islam. وَالشَّرْطُ الرَّابِعُ because الشَّرْطُ الرَّابِعُ, the fourth and the last one we'll take today, inshallah, at this time. الانقياد المنافي للترك، وذلك بأن ينقاد لما دلت عليه كلمة الإخلاص. ولعل الفرق بين الانقياد والقبول أن القبول إظهار صحة معنى ذلك بالقول فيقبله ويعلن ذلك نطقا باللسان، وأما الانقياد فهو الاتباع بالأفعال ويلزم منهما جميعا الاتباع. Okay, the fourth and final that we take at this time is al-inqiyad, which is to submit. And it's similar to qabul, but qabul, some scholars say, deals with belief in the heart, so acceptance in the heart and acceptance on the tongue. But inqiyad more deals with submission with actions, to come with the actions of Islam, to come with obedience, to come with all the obligations and stay away from the prohibitions. So in this way, you could say that a person, to have the complete tawheed, we're talking, this may be related in completion of his actions, deals with completion of his tawheed. So this is a proof that the actions, when they are complete, then and only then will one's tawheed become complete. Doing the obligations, staying away from prohibitions. Yes, this is the connection with tawheed, that if a person wants to have completion of his tawheed, that which is obligatory upon him, then he has to do obligations and prohibitions. He has to do obligations, stay away from prohibitions. Otherwise, he does not have the complete entrance and the initial entrance into Jannah as promised. So this is how we come to the actions here. And so here the author, he's explaining that for the authenticity of his statement to be there, he must come with the actions to follow, and this is what's called inqiyad, or submission. For submission, فالانقياد هو الاستسلام والإذعان وعدم تعقب لشيء من أحكام الله تعالى. قال تعالى وأنيبوا إلى ربكم وأسلموا له. So it is to submit in obedience. This is inqiyad, so more related to actions. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and submit to your Lord, and turn to him, turn to your Lord and submit to him. Submission in action. Okay, so a person should not be objecting, okay, and be turning away from any of the actions of Islam. That would go against this condition. And no doubt, as you said, the more that he has the certainty and the knowledge in his heart and the acceptance in his heart, then this will come naturally. Because a person, as we know, when we feel the strength of faith in our heart, then the actions become easy for us. The actions come naturally out of love, because we have love in our heart. We have fear of Allah's punishment. We have hope in Allah's reward. When these pillars are established in our heart, then the actions come easily. But as soon as we have a weakness in the heart and a lack of resolve in the heart, and the heart becomes weakened, as you said in the hadith, the heart, when it's strong, the whole body becomes strong and healthy. And if the heart becomes weak, the body has weakness. So if there's weakness in the heart, in the resolve, in the belief, in the knowledge, in the yaqeen, then there's going to be weakness. Okay, there's going to be weakness in the action. So the heart is of levels, and the actions will follow accordingly. So al-inqiyad is related to tawheed and its completion, and even in its origin, a person has to have action. He has to have action. It's related, but the more action, the point is, the more actions he has, the more is his inqiyad, and the more complete is his tawheed. قال ومن الانقياد أيضا لما جاء به النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والرضا به والعمل به دون تعقب أو زيادة أو نقصان. قال تعالى: فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم ثم لا يجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. So here the author is saying also you have to follow and obey the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is from inqiyad. This is from the conditions of La ilaha illallah. It's not just you can say I only believe in Quran, for example. No, person has to from believing in Quran is believing in Sunnah, and from La ilaha illallah is following the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to obey him. So therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, by your Lord they will not believe until they make you the judge in all that they differ between them, and then they find in themselves no difficulty with that which you judge, and they submit a complete submittance. So we have an issue, we have a matter, we go to the judgment of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is from our tawheed. This is inqiyad. Okay, if a person refuses, says I don't want to go to the judgment of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he's not upon tawheed. Then he's not upon tawheed. He's not upon inqiyad. فإذا علم أحد معنى لا إله إلا الله فقد جاء بالشرط الأول، وإذا أيقن بها فقد جاء بالشرط الثاني، وإذا قبلها فقد جاء بالشرط الثالث، ولكنه إذا لم ينقد ولم يذعن لها ولم يستسلم ولم يعمل بمقتضى ما علم فإن ذلك لا ينفعه. ومن عدم الانقياد ترك التحاكم لشريعة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واستبدالها بالقوانين الوضعية. So to summarize to this point, the author says rahimahullah, hafidhahullah wa ghafarallahu lana wa lahu, he said, so the one who knows the meaning La ilaha illallah, then he has come with the first condition. If he has certainty of that knowledge, he has knowledge first, that's the first condition. If he has certainty of the knowledge, he has the second condition. And if he accepts with his heart and his tongue, then he has the third condition. But if he does not submit and say, I comply to the legislations, I accept the legislations, I do not object to the legislations, I accept the judgment of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then and only then will he have the fourth condition. But if he said, I don't accept this, I don't accept that, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, and then he is not benefited by his first three conditions. He's not entered into Islam in reality. He is not submitted in reality. So he would not be upon Tawheed. But the more and more actions he does, the more and more complete his Tawheed would be. And if he has deficiency of actions, then he has deficiency of the completion of his Tawheed. So and so on according to different levels. And we'll stop there. And وما قلته من ثواب فهو من الله وما قلته من خطأ فهو من الشيطان ومن نفسي والله منه بريء ونسأل الله تعالى أن ينفعنا بما سمعنا وما قلنا وأن يجعله حجة لنا لا علينا. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. When we conclude by asking Allah to bless the brothers who made this gathering possible and made the efforts, we ask Allah to bless them, and نسأل الله أن يبارك فيهم وفي أهلهم وفي أموالهم, and we ask Allah to bless them and to grant us the beneficial knowledge and the righteous action. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا اللهم بما علمتنا وزدنا اللهم علما وعملا وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وجزاكم الله خيرا أجمعين.